to everybody out there listening, and welcome back to another episode of the Cards for Kids podcast. I'm your host, David Egloff, and I'm really excited about the interview we have for you guys today. Now, this podcast is brought to you by Cards for Kids, where we uplift spirits one card at a time. Don't forget to check out our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, the company website. I promise any little bit of help that you can do makes a huge difference. And with that, let's take it on to our interview for today. And my guest with me here today is Tom Chambers. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you, David?
I'm doing great. Now, before we spoke today, I asked you to come up with a quote. I love quotes. I feel like they have a lot of meaning behind them. I've loved listening to all the different quotes that I've heard so far while doing this podcast. And Tom, if you could, please read the quote for us.
Okay, so first of all, I chose a quote by David Goggins. He's one of the most inspirational people that I've discovered in the past few years. And his quote is, never let people who choose the path of least resistance steer you away from your chosen path of most resistance. And like the reason why I chose that quote is because basically I feel like all my life, things have been very difficult, and people say like, yeah, just why don't you take the easy path? Why don't you just pick something that's easier, or why don't you like go the way of least resistance? And I find that like just because people think you should go a certain way, follow your own path. Like the more ridiculous of a path, the more interesting of a story that your life leads. Like you'll come across different experiences and whatnot. And I've always found that I'd rather choose an experience over like just good, a good time.
Do you personally feel more satisfied if it was more of a fight to get there? Just generally.
Yeah. I mean, you got to feel more satisfied when you like finish something that's really hard or more challenging. Like I definitely had a challenging life, and at the same time, like it definitely felt more rewarding now that I'm where I'm at now, because then I can appreciate what I have now compared to like what happened throughout my life.
Is there anything that you've accomplished that you're most proud of?
That I'm most proud of?
I would question.
Yeah, I know it's a very difficult question. I would actually say like I know it's very small to some, because some people have like for me it's basically graduating college with a bachelor's degree. Some people know this about me, but not everybody knows this about me. But basically, when I grew up, like I ended up like having a lot of trouble going through like middle school, high school. Like I've been held back in sixth grade for missing too many days. In high school, I was expelled 2 years in a row. So therefore, I was way behind, and I had to struggle to get through that. And once I got through that, I even ended up going on to college and graduating with a associate's degree first and a bachelor's degree. And to me, it was like I struggled throughout the entire process, but it wasn't because of like education wise. It's more because of my home structure. But at the same time, like that felt like amazing. Like once I walked across that stage with my bachelor's degree, I'm like, wow, I did this. Like I didn't think I would ever do this when I was younger, and now I've done it. So I felt very, very accomplished when I got that.
Well, congratulations to you, and it's led to a lot of successes. And one of those things that you've been doing now is working with Cardz For Kidz. So if you could, please give the audience some background as to what your role has been with Cardz For Kidz.
Okay, so I belong to another group called Volunteer Untapped, and basically what we did was we partnered with Cardz For Kidz to help accomplish a few different goals. One of those goals was basically taking a ton of cards, like I'm talking like a garbage bag full of cards, and sorting through it and figuring out like what type of cards like pretty much going through and saying like, all right, these are designated more for holidays, so we'll keep these. These are more designated towards let's say specific holidays or like specific events type of thing, and then these are designated for like, let's say these are more geared towards like older people rather than younger people. So therefore we sort through the cards, and we sorted through cards, we separated them, and at the same time I've also on top of that, like with my actual company, which I can't mention, I work for a logistics company, a large one, and we basically were able to partner with Cardz For Kidz to also help with their transportation needs, because Cardz For Kidz wants to get their cards spread throughout the world, so like people in France or like Europe or Africa or Asia can experience the cards that we have in the US and vice versa. And I was able to say like, oh, well, you have trouble sending them to like, let's say some cards to Mexico. Cool. Let's see if my company can help out with that. So I reached out to my company, and they were very, very thoughtful. And they're like, yeah, first shipment's on us. And after that, we'll pretty much provide a very discounted price, like pretty much move everything almost at cost. So It's been very like thrilling to be able to help on that side too.
That's amazing. And being able to send those cards internationally, it's such a big deal because I know that there's the Cards for Kids has this idea that the more that a card has traveled, the more that it means. Why do you think international cards, why do you think it's so important to send those cards out internationally?
I think it like connects different communities. Even though everybody says the world's a small place, it really is a large place. Like if you try walking to like let's say the next state over, it's a long walk. But to think of it like if you receive a card from someone, like let's say if I receive a card from someone in like Germany, I've never been to Germany. I know it's very very far. It's plenty of hours of flight away, and at the same time, like it's nice that someone on the other side of the world is being as thoughtful to write a card, a little personalized message to like help someone on our side of the world. So like in other words, it's like connecting two different communities, showing like, hey, there's caring people on both sides. Like we're all one community, we're all one, humanity. Um, we all should care about each other and show like some compassion for one another.
Now, I know Cards for Kids, one of the biggest problems is actually counting those cards, getting all those cards in. And that you've worked with a couple different groups that it's pretty much all you do. Have you come across any cards that spoke out to you above the rest?
So definitely there's been some cards where like they were very created, like created by hand, like very thoughtful, cute little messages, especially when they have like little, let's say, riddles on the inside, or like there was one specific person that sent out I think like 120 cards, and what they did was they actually printed like little like dad jokes on every single card, so every time you open it you got a new dad joke. There was other kids like I believe in Arizona that were creating cards by hand, and they were doing like Squirtles, Baby Yodas, like very, very unique and artistic ways of creating cards. And I was like, wow, these people put a lot of hours and efforts into this, or maybe for them only like an hour of effort by like creating all these, but it was very impressive to say the least.
That's amazing. And the group that you work with is called Volunteering Untapped Chicago, right?
Yes, yes. I pretty much volunteer with, and I'm also a part of their leadership team with Volunteering Untapped. And we work with Cards for Kids quite often. In fact, I think in July we're working with them online.
Now, I've heard of the whole idea behind volunteering on Tap Chicago, but for any listeners out there who don't know, could you give the idea that volunteering on Tap Chicago is based on? Because I think it's amazing.
Yeah. So volunteering untapped, we kind of say like it's a gateway volunteering program. And the reason why we say that is because what we do is the second Saturday of every month, we get together for around 3 hours to work together and volunteer with a different type of nonprofit, and then afterwards we all get together and socialize around lunch or drinks. So the premise is basically like we find another organization, or maybe even two or three, just if depending on the month and how big the needs are for each organization. So like for example, we could be with Cards for Kids, and we'll basically partner with them where we can like have anywhere between 50 to 100 volunteers work with this organization to pretty much go through and accomplish the goals of that organization from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then afterwards, we all just like take a break and we're like, all right, we did a good job. Now, since we did a good job, let's go out and, socialize and have drinks and food. So we meet up and we, get to meet new people through that. Like you can pretty much go talk to anybody because you're surrounded pretty much by volunteers. It's kind of like a little mini volunteer expo, and you can pretty much like make friends. You can talk about different interests. You can even meet someone who might be in the same field as you and like network in that sense. So it's a very it's combining socializing with networking mixed with volunteering and doing good stuff overall.
Do you find that people tend to come back after they've first started to get involved with volunteering on Tap Chicago? Do you see familiar faces around?
Definitely. Like I definitely see familiar faces all the time. I know many volunteers by first name just because I see them so often. Like I'm like, oh hey Mike, like, and I just we build like you not only build a friendship but you can build a community like around this, because when you have people like comment over and over again, you easily know, like, all right, cool, I know this person works very well at, like, let's say landscaping. They love landscaping, so let's put them on this task. Or this person is really good in social and they have a pretty good like leader vibe. Let's have them lead this group and whatnot. And it's just nice because when you see people so often, it makes you feel more comfortable. And at the same time, you know, like, all right, this person's really good at socializing. Like, let's put them with that little bit of a shy person over there to kind of get them to open up a little bit and, like, you know, get them to have a good time. And we're all there to have a good time and, you know, do some good in the world. So it's awesome.
Where does Tom fit in that equation? What are you in your role? What would you say?
All right, so I'm a logistics coordinator, so I pretty much like kind of like plan different things, such as I handle like wait list, make sure that everybody has a chance to be able to partake in all the events. I also do things like we usually have to volunteer and be a group leader. So every time we have an event, I would say like 10 out of 12 events in the year, I end up leading a group, and I basically do my best as a leader to make sure my team has everything that they need to accomplish whatever goals are set in place, and at the same time make sure they have water, you know, some like snacks if they need snacks, if they need any tools, or like let's say a first aid kit, I work with that. And also, not only do I help them, but I also like work alongside them. So like I try and like lead by example in a sense, and also help accomplish whatever goal is of the nonprofit. So that's kind of like what I do. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff I do in the background, but at the same time, like that's the main thing that I love doing about with Volunteer Untapped is jumping in there and helping lead groups and helping us all accomplish one goal of like, you know, finishing whatever project we're trying to finish.
How did you get on this path of volunteering and dedicating so much of your time to helping others? I mean, counting cards is no simple feat. I can't imagine how many cards you've been through. I can't imagine how many community service hours you've racked up in your time volunteering. How did you get here?
So I've always thought like volunteering was fun, and I'm kind of a workaholic. So like for me, like if I'm able to dedicate a little bit of my time, like let's say 3 hours a month, 3 hours a month, I find is not much time at all. Um, 3 hours a month, you can accomplish a lot too. Like when we see these large projects get accomplished, we're like, wow, that's awesome. We achieved this much. Like, let's do it again. So ever since I've been like, learned about volunteering and actually got involved with it, which was probably about 4 years ago. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, and we see what we accomplished. We're like, oh, so in 3 hours I can get that much done because you're basically laser focused on getting one thing done. I'm like, this is awesome because not only did it help out this, you know, community or organization so much, but at the same time, I'm doing a lot of good. So I want to continue doing this because to me, it's important to help the community around you and also like build the type of environment or community that you want to see around you because in a sense, if everybody was like kind of like selfish, nothing would get done. Like no community would be built. But the more you invest in your community and help out others and help other organizations and whatnot, the more you can see it grow. The more you can see a positive outcome come of that community. So that's what I would like to see is like all communities around me thrive.
You talk about how much you're able to accomplish, and really at the root of that is just how many people you're able to inspire to go out with you, right? I mean, how many people do you think work on a project at a time?
So it depends on the project. Like I've seen projects where, like for example, we let's see, if we worked with like a large one that we worked with was Toys for Tots. We probably broke up into 3 4 groups, but there was probably around 150 of us that actually worked on
Wow.
those 3 or 4 groups, and we, I mean, depending on what they assigned us, like we got so much done that like at some point, like at the end of it, which this is my most memorable one, was they actually said at the end, great job, guys. Guess what? You did so much and completed so much that we have to now collect more toys to pretty much sort because we had some other groups coming in later this week, but we ran out of toys to sort. So now our new goal is get more toys so we can sort more toys because those toys need to go out to the families. And we basically like finished our project ahead of time. So it gave them like opportunity to go out there and actually do more by collecting more toys. So that way the next group could sort through those toys and whatnot. But it's great to like be able to accomplish these type of things because again, not only are we like completing those projects of the other groups, but like it allows them to focus more on important things. Like when we help out at schools, if we're painting walls and we complete all the painting, like painting all the walls, the teachers and staff don't have to worry about focusing on, you know, painting the walls. They can focus on the more important things. Like the teachers should focus on education and whatnot, and the like janitorial staff or faculty can actually focus on more other items, like let's say updating certain things or keep maintaining other items.
That's amazing. What kind of sales pitch would you give somebody out there listening who's not volunteering right now? What sales pitch would you give them to get up and for what do you say, 3 hours a month, go
Yeah.
volunteer?
First of all, like I would say, like take action. If you for 3 hours a month is absolutely no time at all. I'm sure there's 3 hours a month at least that you look at your phone. Take those 3 hours and actually go out there and like join up with another organization. Doesn't matter what organization it is, as long as you go out there and volunteering a little bit of time to say, you know what, these 3 hours, I'm going to dedicate this to doing, some positive in the community. I'm going to just join this group and help them out for 3 hours. And after that 3 hours, see how you feel about what you accomplished. Like dedicate yourself, work towards it and complete it and say like, all right, cool. I completed 3 hours. Well, I got this much done. Like just try and like go out there and make the world a better place in a sense. I mean, it's great to not be selfish. And at the same time, it feels like kind of like you're giving a present because you're really giving your time like 3 hours a month. So giving that little present, I mean, we all like giving presents. I feel like if you give that little present once a month, it overall will help you feel like a little bit more wholesome, a little bit happier. And at the same time, you'll feel a little bit more accomplished in that month. Like you can mark that off and be like, all right, great. Or you can find another organization if you love it that much and you can go, volunteer at another organization.
And you've seen a little bit of what Cardz for Kidz is all about. You've worked with us before. You've done a lot of volunteering with us. What piece of advice would you give somebody who's looking to get into Cardz for Kidz and do some volunteering with them?
Yeah. There's, first of all, a few different ways that I know of that you can get involved with Cardz for Kidz. I mean, overall, the organization's very thoughtful with like their whole, what they do, like, creating cards and sending them out to different, like kids facilities and whatnot. That's a big thing. Like nobody necessarily like said like, hey, can you please do this? They just took it upon themselves to start creating this organization to actually do this. And it's very thoughtful and like, inspiring and heartwarming and whatnot. And I feel like the first thing you should do, like if you want to actually get involved with Cardz for Kidz, is reach out. The staff is really amazing. Like I've dealt with EK, and he's pretty much like been super thoughtful, very friendly, very welcoming. Like anytime I've talked with him, he's very organized. I was actually quite impressed by that. I was like, awesome, this guy's organized. Like he knows exactly what needs to be done, and he spelled it out for us, so it made it very easy for us to get involved. Um, the few different ways I know of is you can help sort cards. There's always plenty of cards to sort. EK will definitely verify that as well. And you can also create cards as well. I'm sure there's other ways to get involved. I don't know all the ways to get involved, but those are definitely a few easy ones. I mean, to sit down at home and like, let's say, take some crayons and some construction paper and create some like, you know, beautiful messages for other people that you don't know, and just spreading love throughout the world in that sense. It's just a great way to get involved. And at the same time, you can do it at home while you're watching TV or Netflix, like if you're bored, or you can like sort through cards whenever, you're not doing anything, or you're like, let's say if you don't have any plans on a Saturday morning, just wake up, have a cup of coffee and sort through some cards. And it's easy. And I'm sure EK will appreciate all the help, any help from sorting the cards, because they have many.
And I want to stress to everybody out there listening, you do not need to be an artist to make a card. I certainly am not an artist. Not everybody can be. We appreciate the people who are artists and we appreciate the people who aren't. It's all about the message and the meaning behind the card.
Very true.
Now, Tom, thank you so much for coming out and taking the time of your day to talk to us. And with that, this episode of the Cardz for Kidz podcast has come to an end. Thank you for listening. I encourage you all again to check out our company website, Instagram, Facebook, all social media to learn more about us and what we do. My name's David Egloff, and I'll talk to you next time.